actually just dropped. They said they didn't have time.
Okay, okay.
We could use this.
Yeah, let's use it for the crowd.
Check, check. Is this microphone?
We'll just hang on to it. Okay. There'll be a second one down here? Oh, okay, great. Well, then we can put this one up here.
Wait, there's a second one for the panel?
Yeah, for us to
for
pass
us.
around.
Yes. Okay.
Check. Say check.
Check.
Check. Check 1, 2. Okay, check. So check.
Check. Check it out, check yourself. You want me to start singing?
Yeah.
Hello.
Don't step on it when you get up. We'll do a cheer.
Check. Slow.
Okay.
That is not funny. All right, cool. I don't think. So we need to talk? No, not right now. Put that thing over there.
There is one.
Just like do this.
I don't know if they're ready yet. Are we ready?
We'll need it for the audience.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
I'll say that at the end. Okay, now we're ready. I'm just trying to read.
Do you want this, Hanks? Do you want this one?
Not yet.
Oh.
I'm standing up there while you're talking because I'm asking you to just grab it.
I didn't really try this yesterday when you were talking, so we'll just wing it.
What is it? Crispy, if you want me to do it. No, I'll just do it. I'm right here.
No,
But I'm right here. I really.
I can do it because I'm right after her.
Actually, I'm both cases. I'll totally do it because I'm going to be standing there. So now you're off the hook.
No, I don't care.
I know, but I just realized.
Perfect.
I'm just going to stay here. I'm standing right here. So we're feeling a little conflicted because this was supposed to be at 2 o'clock, but then online today it said 2:30. So I'm just standing here being conflicted about it, and if more people are coming, I don't know. We can take an audience vote. I certainly don't want you guys to wait for 25 more minutes, but.
I was wrong. It did start at 2.
So we're legit. Well, we had somebody at our center look it up today, and it said 2:30 for some reason. Okay, so we can start.
Start.
You did not have to admit guilt in any way, but thanks. Whatever. Okay, so then I guess we'll get going. So how many of you guys have been to other presentations so far today? Or during this conference? How's it going? Everybody enjoying it? Good. Let's just do a little poll well, for instance, why are you here? Like, anyone brave enough to say why you came to this one? You asked us to. Okay, you guys have to. Anybody else? Yeah.
I want to be a teacher.
Okay. You want to be a teacher? Good.
So we have people attending online, so if you're saying anything, I'm going to run to you with the microphone because we want them to be able to hear.
Okay, that sounds great. Anybody else? Why this particular topic caught your eye? Yeah.
I'm a grandmother now of an 18-month-old boy. So luckily he's not exposed to a lot of things yet, but I just thought it'd be interesting to attend.
Great, thanks. Anybody else want to share?
I have a younger sister, and she's 7, so she's very exposed to all this media, and I can tell she's starting to form her own opinions, and yeah.
That's great, thanks.
I have two young daughters, 6 and 9, and so they're right in this area where media is really, really powerful.
That's great, thanks. Anybody else?
I came because I want to see what you got to say, and I have some captive young children that we're working with, so.
That's great, thanks. How you doing, Burnett? I haven't seen you in a long time. It's good to see you. Okay, I'm thinking that we should maybe, oh, one more, go ahead.
Okay, I'm a grandfather of two young men who are now serving in the U.S. Air Force. And they have been influenced a lot by media. They have a sister who's much younger, she's 13. And she has been involved by her parents, in fact, all of the kids have, in sports and in activities, which are draining of the family resources, including parental energy and grandparental energy. But still, you know, I can see in the kids that they hang out with that their attitudes are you know, you all know this, they're dominated by the people around them more than by their parents. And so I'm anxious to see what you have to say. Thank you.
That's great, thanks. The rest of you guys that look a lot younger than me, you guys students here at UW? Okay, awesome. Any of you thinking about being teachers, going into education? Oh, really? Sweet.
Corsa and I are students at University of Washington, and we'll be presenting tomorrow. But actually, our work does involve working with small children as well as adults, and so we think that this is going to be a very useful topic to hear about.
Great. What time is your presentation tomorrow?
Tomorrow at 3 o'clock, I think.
3 o'clock, don't miss it then.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks. Okay, I'm thinking though, is there any way to lower the lights on this end for the video stuff? If not, it's fine.
They are lowered currently.
Can you guys see okay? There's going to be a lot of visual stuff today that we're going to be sharing with you guys, so I want to make sure you can see and hear well what we're going to share. So this is a topic that as a school we spend a lot of time thinking and talking about. We all work at the University of Wyoming Early Care and Education Center. So it's child care and education center here on campus, and I'm skipping slides. We have 85 children at our center currently, and they're the children of faculty, staff, and students here at UW. We have 6 different classrooms, 1 infant room, 2 toddler rooms, 3 preschool rooms, and also an after-school room. And its purpose really is to just keep families together when a child goes to school. If they have siblings at our place, then it's a pretty small space, but we do have some after-school spots. We have 52 staff right now this year, 6 lead teachers, that's these ladies that I'll introduce to you in a minute. And then we have part-time assistant teachers and teacher aides that are in our classrooms also, and those are primarily students. And then we have at least, at minimum, 300 students a year that are placed in our center. Has anybody here been placed in our center for a class before? So it's like there's a really large population of students that come in and out of our program every semester. So just to introduce myself, my name is Nikki Baldwin, and I'm the curriculum coordinator at the Early Care and Education Center. And this is Michelle Kearns. She's our infant teacher. And Shayla is right here. She's our one of our toddler teachers. Christy is also a toddler teacher. Jacqueline is a preschool teacher, and Adina, and then Rihanna. All of these ladies have degrees in early childhood education or child development. And so this is an area of expertise for us that we really want to share with all of you. So I think what we want to do is start with sort of laying the groundwork about what we're even talking about here, children as a captive audience, what does that actually mean? And there's been a lot of things that have happened in the last 20 years that have sort of shifted, and we're going to try to share some of those things with you guys today. But let's just get to some statistics about young children as consumers. First of all, there's more than 50 million kids under the age of 12 in the US, so that's a pretty big population. Research has shown that children influence 62% of family purchases. They have an enormous influence on what families spend their money on. The total's actually between $500 to $700 billion a year in household spending, depending on what you cite. So imagine $700 billion a year in household spending that's influenced by children under 12. So there's ways that marketers view the children as a market. They consider children as a primary market. That means what children spend their own money on. Okay, so that amounts to $40 billion per year that children spend their own money. Then we have what's known as the kids' influence market. And so that's how children influence decision makers. And there's two main ways that they do that. They have direct influence, meaning I'm asking you for it and you buy it for me right now. That's about $340 billion per year of spending in households of things that kids ask for. And then the same amount, another $340 billion per year, is indirect influence. Just grandma knows that this kid loves Transformers, so grandma buys him Transformer stuff. Okay, that's what we're talking about there. So let's talk about where we're at with our current media landscape and how that's influencing all of this. Currently, companies are spending about $17 billion annually marketing to children. And that's been growing by 20% over the last 5 years, each year, growing by 20% each year. Children aged 2 to 11, this is just like kind of an obscure statistic, but they view more than 25,000 advertisements just on TV every year. And then you can go ahead and double that or more when you consider all the other advertising that they see on other media. And the really interesting thing about the US is that we have the least restrictive laws about marketing to children of any industrialized nation at this point. There's almost no laws or regulations on the books in the US. That's a whole other presentation that dates back to the 80s, but we won't go there. Current corporate arguments. The favorite arguments of corporations against having any regulation include, this is their favorite, it's their argument for everything, that regulation violates their right to free speech. A secondary argument that corporations use a lot is put all the blame on parents. So corporations should be able to do whatever they want with media, and parents should be the sole gatekeeper to make sure they protect their children from its influences. And then the final, another favorite of mine, is that corporations think that they should just regulate themselves and that it will be fine and that they'll do things in the best interests of kids, which we're going to spend most of today helping you see that that's not true. Really, anybody ever heard of the nag factor before? That term? The nag factor was made popular in 1998 when a study was done all about marketing to kids, and we'll see a little clip about it. Generally, the point of the nag factor is that how much kids nagging can make their parents buy stuff. So actually, The Simpsons has done a beautiful job of, what? Oh, is this the one that I have that? Okay, thanks, Christy. We're going to show a really great clip from The Simpsons, which is media, by the way. Their satire. I hope that the sound is not working.
Are you unmuted on YouTube?
Yeah. Oh, stop. This is all not muted.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can hold the mic up to the speaker if I need to.
Try playing it again.
Play again. It might be really loud, everyone, sorry. No.
Try it again. Let's go down here to your computer and make sure it's the right output. All right. Control panel. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Go back. That was a noise that sounded good.
Control panel.
Be sound. Oh man, here it is. Sound. Speakers.
We want high definition audio device. Oh, now play, okay.
Should I try it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not working, maybe. Let's see.
Okay.
Mount Splashmore.
Okay, now.
I'm
we
going to
can
let him turn that down.
Turn that down.
Can you turn it down from your place? Okay, sweet. Here we go.
The Tri-County area's funnest water recreation facility. It's the Krusty the Clown Show.
Hey, kids! You know, today's the last day of our special week on location at fabulous Mount Splashmore. And I just want to say, the people here have been super to me in Sideshow Mel. The food, the grog. Oh, they threw us a brunch yesterday with fresh fruit and the most delicious melon. Oh, yay till he plots. And of course, the thing I'm gonna miss most is those special Mount Splashmore water slides. God bless them. So much fun. So many memories. Give me a minute.
It has been a great week, hasn't it, Lise?
I hope all you kids come out this weekend and really pack this place just to show them how grateful I am. I told them you would. Don't make me a liar. Okay, kids, it's time to...
Run along with Rusty! Yeah! I want to go to Mount Splashmore.
Take me, take me, take me, take me now! Now, 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 now!
Mount Splashmore, take me there right now! This is a rather shameless promotion. Hey, it worked on me. Me too. Will you take us to Mount Splashmore?
No.
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 Will you take us to Mount
No.
Splashmore? Will you
No,
take us to
no.
Mount Splashmore?
If I take you, will you two shut up and quit bugging me?
Yeah, of course. Well, will you take us to Mount Splashmore?
Yes.
Thanks, Dad.
That is, I tried to beat that. That's the nag factor at its best. We're going to show a little bit of a clip from an amazing documentary about this. It's just maybe 3 to 4 minute clip.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Off into space. Man, that takes real teamwork. And here's a team of junior spacemen with an out-of-this-world breakfast.
Comparing the marketing of yesteryear to the marketing of today is like comparing a BB gun to a smart bomb. It's not the same as when I was a kid, or even when the people who are young adults today were kids. It's much more sophisticated and it's much more pervasive. It's not that products themselves are bad or good. It's the notion of manipulating children into buying the products. In 1998, Western International Media, Century City, and Lieberman Research Worldwide conducted a study on nagging.
We asked parents to keep a diary for 3 weeks and to record every time, you could imagine, every time their child nagged them for a product. We asked them to record when, where, and why.
This study was not to help parents cope with nagging. It was to help corporations help children nag for their products more effectively.
Anywhere from 20% to 40% of purchases would not have occurred unless the child had nagged their parents. That is, we found, for example, a quarter of all visits to theme parks wouldn't have occurred unless a child nagged their parents. 4 out of 10 visits to places like Chuck E. Cheese would not have occurred. And any parent would understand that. You know, when I think of Chuck E. Cheese, oh my goodness, it's noise. And there's so many kids. Why would I want to spend 2 hours there? But if the child nags enough, you're going to go. We saw the same thing with movies, with home video, with fast food. We do have to break through this barrier where they do tell us, or they say they don't like it when their kids nag. Well, that's just a general attitude that they possess. It doesn't mean that they necessarily act upon it 100% of the time. you can manipulate consumers into wanting and therefore buying your products. It's a game.
Children are not little adults. Their minds aren't developed. And what's happening is that marketers are playing to their developmental vulnerabilities. The advertising that children are exposed to today is honed by psychologists. It's enhanced by media technology that nobody ever thought was possible.
The more insight you have about the consumer, the more creative you'll be in your communication strategies. So if that takes a psychologist, yeah, we want one of those on staff.
I'm not saying that it's wrong to make things for children. You know, and I also think it's important to distinguish between psychologists who work on products for children, who help toy corporations make toys that are developmentally appropriate. I think that's great. That's different from selling the toys directly to the children.
Initiative is huge. I think in the US, we place about $12 billion of media time. So we'll put it on TV, we'll put it in print, we'll put it out in outdoor, we'll buy radio time. So we're the biggest buyers of advertising time and space in the US and in the world.
One family cannot combat an industry that spends $12 billion a year trying to get their children. They can't do it.
They are tomorrow's adult consumers, so start talking with them now, build that relationship when they're younger, and you've got them as an adult. Somebody asked me, Lucy, is that ethical? You're essentially manipulating these children. Well, yeah, is it ethical? I don't know. But our role at Initiative is to move products. And if we know you move products with a certain creative execution, placed in a certain type of media vehicle, then we've done our job.
That's sort of alarming, isn't it? Another word for nag factor is pester power. That's been made popular recently. Another thing to think about with nagging is it's not always just about children's products. In fact, corporations are counting on children to nag their parents for adult products, especially cars. So I just want you to pay attention after this to car advertisements. And here's just like a prime example. Toyota is really big on this. They did a whole thing in 2012 based around this kid. You guys might remember him when you see him. There it is.
I don't tolerate dorkiness very well. Yet my parents still cart me around in a car that says, "Hi, we're the Geek family." This Highlander is more like it. Nice interior. It's even got the optional Bluetooth streaming audio. Very classy, Mrs. J. Just because you're a parent doesn't mean you have to be lame.
See the stylish new Highlander at youtube.com/Highlander.
So it's important to note that, how children are also being used to nag for other products beyond children's products. Okay.
Okay, now we're going to look at the marketing strategies that are used. So I want you guys to divide up into groups of 4 to 5. And I want you to think back to when you were a kid and what advertisers did that was most influential on you and your family. When you think about TV and advertising, what do you remember most? What type of products were advertised and what strategies did advertisers use? We'll break up into groups for about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and share some. Okay, we'll come back together. Okay, would any of you guys like to share your responses to the questions above? Raise your hand and she'll come around with the mic. Don't be.
Nobody wants. I'll just hold the mic a little ways away. Okay. So basically, we talked about how we don't remember what was advertised on TV because a lot of us, like, we didn't watch a lot of TV growing up. But we were influenced by, like, our friends and what they had and kind of just watching what everybody else around us had, so.
All right. Abby, what about you?
So we're children of the 90s over here, and we were just talking about all like the candy that was like the coolest thing ever, and the nifty little songs that we can still sing every word to.
What's your one?
The Baby Bottle Pop song, like everyone knows that song. Yeah, Alicia's singing it up there.
I don't even know what that is. I don't know. Wow.
Yeah, and it like told you how to use the candy and everything. But yeah, like the little songs and yeah.
All right, one more. Oh.
Is this far enough? Okay, so one of the things we talked about was cars and how kids nag their parents because they have seating and their seats turn and they have tables in there and there are TVs in there. Like, I know some of our preschoolers have cars now that have TVs in them, and I'm sure it was because they have TVs in them.
Yeah, so I talked about when I was younger, probably 5th grade, so it's been a while, but I convinced my mom into buying this van because there was so much room in it, and she's like, no, we have to test drive it. I was like, no, Mom, you're buying this van, and we still have it. So I guess I was more a persuader than a nagger.
All right, thanks. Okay, so our first marketing strategy is repetition. Yes. So we have a couple little snips that we want you guys to watch. And I want you all to know ahead of time that these two little videos are only shown on children networks. So like Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, shown during children's TV shows.
Introducing Janimals, the wearable stuffed animals that start out cuddly and cute, then roll out into a fun animal suit. Janimals, Janimals, wearable stuffed animals.
Can't you already sing the? Sing it right now.
Yeah.
Chill it up, fill it up, shake, shake, shake it up, slush it down, make it in the max. Slushy Magic Max! It's Slushy Magic Max! Max! The sensational slushy maker that's now 30% bigger, making it more frozen fun for everyone!
Make it in the max!
Max! Orange, apple, or berry juice shakes into a frosty, frozen, fruity blast. Just
Yes. All right, so they're using these little jingles to get the children's attention, and then it starts sticking in your head, and then they start singing it more and more and more. And then sometimes that can be an influence on their parents buying the product. So now that, hold on. No, now that I have those jingles in your head, we talked about the baby bottle pop jingle. Is there anybody else that has a jingle that they remember from their childhood that they'd like to share? Oscar Mayer. Sing it, Alicia. No, I'm just kidding. Anybody else?
I'd like to teach the world to sing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I'd like to buy the world a Coke.
Yep.
And keep it company.
And right up here, I think.
Working, is it? Oh, there we go. I remember the one about like paper plates that were animals and the like danced across the screen, and everyone knew that song and everyone wanted animal paper plates.
Nice. All right, thanks. So the next marketing strategy is branded characters. Here are some that, of course, have been around for many, many years. We have Ronald McDonald, Little Debbie Keebler, Pillsbury Doughboy. So for a minute, I want you to think about where do you see the branded characters the most? What kind of products? Thanks, Nikki. Of both of them.
The nature of my job is that I am always on the move, and that's why I handle my business with zero touch.
Could switching to Geico really save you 15% or more on car insurance? Did the little piggy cry wee, wee, wee all the way home?
Wait, wait, wait!
Max.
Wait, wait, wait!
Maxwell!
Yeah?
You're home.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Mrs. A.
Geico. 50.
Well, I think we should just watch it.
Party rock!
All right, so that one is an advertisement for IKEA. So both of them had animals, which are very appealing to children. But in the last one, what did you see that could be really disturbing for children to watch? A lot of violence. And then they throw the hamsters in there dancing. And dancing hamsters are going to get children's attention, but there's also a lot of violence. And can you imagine how much money they spent on one commercial? Pretty disturbing. So the next marketing strategy is celebrity endorsements. So we have Taylor Swift, Peyton Manning, and of course the One Less Lonely Girl collection with Justin Bieber. And then we have product placement on TV and movies. So Coke, Starbucks. This is from Toy Story. Of course, everything in the movie are toys, so they're marketing their toys to sell. And then the last one is from the Smurfs movie, and of course they have product placement all over in there.
All right, so with product placement in movies, we also have it in games, like video games. So when I thought about video games, I thought about how realistic they are nowadays. There's fans, and they just look like the live thing. And when you think about live sporting events, you think about billboards there. I mean, I think about Cowboys games, and there's Papa John's, Pepsi, Verizon, all of that. Well, in these video games, there's McDonald's billboard in the soccer, Coca-Cola in the basketball, which brings us to candystand.com. Does anyone know about this? Alicia. Alicia knows. So candystand.com is one of the most popular sites on the internet. It's a place where you go play games. The games are either just games, advertisements, or advert games, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Sorry, I keep moving this. Candy Stand is owned by Kraft Entertainment, which is a branch of Kraft Foods, which when you think about Kraft Foods, they own junk foods, sugary stuff. So a lot of their advertisements are for those kinds of foods and sugar. Candystand.com, their most popular game was, Fruit Stripe. Does anyone know the gum? Fruit Stripe, the very sugary zebra gum that loses flavor in 10 seconds. Okay, well, their most popular game was based on, or an advertisement for this gum. You take a picture, it stores it in an album, you can go back, you can move around all your pictures, you can rate your pictures, other people can rate your pictures. Really, it was just designed to get kids to spend the most amount of time on there as possible. So they keep seeing this ad and it's stuck. That brand is stuck in their head. Which leads us to advert games, which are simply just games designed to sell a product. These can be found on apps on cell phones, iPads, tablets, internet, any other things places you can get these games? Video games, like Xbox, you can buy stuff like that. This is probably a fun game, Wild Quest, but it's designed to sell Cheetos. M&Ms, Sudoku. I thought this was interesting because sometimes I get bored of Sudoku, just doing numbers 1 through 9, that this was just a different way to look at Sudoku, which I thought also designed the game so you stay on it longer because you have to train your brain to think about the colors rather than numbers. And I thought we should point out that at the bottom it says go to mnm.com, which is a direct link. So if anyone's playing that game, they can just click on and start shopping on mnm.com. This is from candystand.com, obviously. Miniature golf, which I'm sure is fun, but selling lifesavers. And then Honey Nut Cheerios, another probably fun game, but selling just Cheerios. I wanted to note that most of the advert games, most of them, not all, but most, are selling sugary cereals, candy, junk food, just advertising that to your child. Which brings us to advert movies, which, along with advert games, are just movies designed to sell a product. The Lego movie is a major one that we think of, is designed by a toy maker, simply to sell Legos. You skipped my Barbie one. Okay. Which brings us to tracking software and spyware, which is one of the creepiest things I can think of for a marketing strategy. If you think about when you've shopped online for a long time, and then you get on Facebook, and there's ads from something you shopped for maybe a month ago, or maybe a week ago, or maybe just an hour ago, exactly. Tracking software tracks your home IP address, the amount of time that you spend on a site, and then they have access to your friend list and your address book, which is just incredibly creepy. So coming out this fall, I don't know if any of you have heard of it, is the new Smart Barbie, which we're going to watch a short clip about.
Raise your hand if you've heard about Smart Barbie.
High-tech version of the doll that can talk to kids has some parents upset, worried about privacy. ABC's Rebecca Jarvis has that story for us.
She's the new Barbie who looks just like the old Barbie, except for one big difference.
Welcome to New York, Barbie.
When you talk to Hello Barbie, she talks back.
Barbie, what should I be when I grow up?
Well, you told me you like being on stage, so maybe a dancer?
But this morning, some parents are outraged by the technology that lets her do just that, concerned about who could be listening to your child's conversations.
I would never buy my grandchildren Hello Barbie. Hello Barbie is a really terrible violation of children's privacy.
So how does Barbie's talking technology work? A microphone is embedded in her necklace. When you press down on her belt buckle, her speech recognition technology activates and only stays activated as long as the button's held down. Like a walkie-talkie, letting your child talk with Barbie for up to 60 minutes of battery life.
She can recognize and respond to exactly what I'm saying and understand it. But not only can she understand it, she actually remembers it.
Which is a little creepy. To say the least. So if you think about kids, they right now, at that young, they don't really filter a lot. So they're going to talk to Barbie. Barbie's their friend. They're going to tell Barbie a lot. And all that information is getting sent back to Mattel, the brand of Barbie, and stored, and is used to then, or can be used to then advertise better to your children.
Okay, so the last marketing ploy that we're going to talk about is integrated marketing, which is where they market across all platforms. SpongeBob is a good example of this. SpongeBob started out as a cartoon on the Nickelodeon channel in 1999. Now, it's a float at the Macy's Day Parade. It's a book. You can get it on your macaroni and cheese, on food. There's big companies that have partnered with SpongeBob, such as Burger King, McDonald's. And now we have a new SpongeBob 3D movie coming out. So it started as a cartoon, and it's all the way to a movie. They market with toys. Right now there's toys and closeout that are marketing for the movie that's coming out in the summer, which happens with all movies. They make toys to promote going to these movies. All of this stuff is promoted just so that you will watch the show or go to the movies. There is a difference between TV and online advertising. Television commercials are limited to an allotted amount of time, and online, there's no limit. However long you're on the internet is how long you're being advertised to. There's all the ads all over it. Online advertising includes the tracking software that we just talked about. So if you think about children, anything a child clicks on, it's going to be recorded and remembered, and that will be used to advertise to the individual child. Online social media has created an enormous viral market. So, I mean, you can probably all think of something that has gone viral and think of how that would influence children. Without the use of parental control software, children can get into whatever they want. There are no limits on what they're seeing when they're on the internet. Because of this, there is an unprecedented saturation of marketing. You see it in schools. If you think of programs like Book It, it's attached to Pizza Hut. Channel 1 is a news station that is shown in some schools, but there are tons of commercials played throughout the day on that show. Bus radio, kind of the same thing. It's for children. They play music for children, but commercials and advertising and marketing specifically set towards children is played on that radio. If a teacher wants to show an instructional YouTube video, there will be commercials like you've seen on all the YouTube videos we've tried to pull up now. Products, if you go to the grocery store, go to the Walmart, what do you see? You see clothes, backpacks, bikes, bedding, food, all with characters on it to market those products. What is your experience with media saturations? Where else have you noticed these? Yes.
I forgot. I'd like to take it back to schools because I think the other place where it also happened is in the purchasing of technologies that are going to be then used with classroom teachers, with preschools, right? It's like, what is it that we can buy? And I think that sometimes has unintended consequences that we're not always aware of because it can then be advertising in addition to the ones that we already know and recognize, right? By which software, which hardware, what programs are you using, and who's actually selling those things. Because just because it's under the umbrella of a school or a daycare or whatever, doesn't mean that it's not also marketing.
Anybody else? Have any ideas where else you see this? Okay, well, I'm just going to point out a few. How about restaurants? Most restaurants these days have TVs going while you're eating. In the checkout line, they have little screens that are just flashing advertisements. Sporting events, we talked about that a little bit. How about your doctor's office or your dentist? I know for kids these days, you go to the dentist or the doctor, and a thing they use to keep your child still, sometimes they give them an iPad or a movie to watch or videos or cartoons. So those are just some of the places where we see advertising. And because there is this oversaturation, the only place that marketers can go is younger and younger, which leads to 360-degree cradle-to-grave marketing. So what types of things are people marketing? Shout it out. What do you see marketed? Anybody? Clothes. Yes. Food. Toys. Okay, those are good. Let's see. 75% of all advertisements on TV are for sugar-coated cereals, sugar drinks and snacks, and fast foods. Other highly advertised products are toys, restaurants, and alcohol.
Okay, so now that we've bombarded you with all of that crazy information, we're going to talk about what the problem is with all of this stuff, and really what the effects of all of it is. So there is 5 main areas that we find most alarming about all of this stuff. So that's family stress, developmental readiness for all of this stuff for kids, the negative health impacts on children, the emotional manipulation of it all, and then finally age compression is the last part of that. So parent stress is the first part. One of the biggest things we thought of is birthday parties have just become this out of control, crazy thing. You see it on social media, Pinterest and Facebook. Parents are going to the absolute extremes for kids' birthday parties, and sometimes we forget that only the really awesome things end up on these websites. Not every birthday party is perfect, but I think parents feel the stress from the advertising and all the things available for birthday parties to come up with things like this for every birthday party they have. Oh, a comment? Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think that another part of that might be, I think they were talking over there about how kids get kind of like indirect marketing from like their friends and that kind of thing. So I think maybe another part of that parent stress could be included in like kind of an economic gap, like kids who like whose families don't have as much money, maybe like comparing to kids who have like a birthday party like this, and I can see where a lot of parent stress could come from that.
Absolutely. I'm going to talk about that later, so that's
cool.
Perfect. Yes. Okay, so the next part is grocery shopping. If you've ever been grocery shopping with a child, you know how hard this is. The entire, well, maybe not the entire grocery store, but especially cereal aisles and the checkout aisle is all specifically designed for your child to bug you about getting the coolest character cereal or the candy that's at the checkout line. So it ends up becoming a stressful experience for everyone. And the last thing for parent stress is these themed vacations. We talked about this, that so much of advertising has become part of this vacation idea that you can go on cruises for Disney. That's a Nickelodeon hotel. So obviously parents probably don't want to stay in these places, but their kids do, and their kids have that much power over the spending, and all of a sudden the characters become more important than the experience of the vacation with your family. Oh, sorry, and we do have one more parent stress. So this is the one that you were just talking about, is the accessorized products. So we've talked about this a lot today, but just the fact that you can buy almost everything that your child could need with a character on it. And that parents then in turn feel really pressured to buy those things because that's what their child seems to want. So we use the example of Transformers. So you can get Transformers bedding, you can get Transformers shoes, you can get backpacks, you can get bikes, you can get junk food with Transformers, glasses, earbuds, coffee mugs, costumes, party decorations, all just to get you essentially to buy the movies. That's what that all is for. So it's really a scary thought thinking that all of those things exist and that your child will want them. And the last part of that is just that a lot of parents don't always have the option to buy all of these things for their child. And that kids feel a lot of pressure to keep up with the Joneses in a way that their friends at school have all these awesome toys that go along with movies like Transformers, but their parents can't afford to provide those for them. And also on the other side of that is some families can only afford to shop at places like Walmart for kids' clothing and that sort of thing. And so I would challenge you next time you're at Walmart to just take a look at their clothing sections for children and try to find things that aren't branded. I'd say 90% or more of the things they have there are branded with characters of some kind. Developmental readiness. This is a big one and a really scary one. So young children actually can't discriminate what is advertising and what isn't. So when they're playing those games online and things like that, they don't understand that that's something that is meant to get them to buy something. It's all just something fun and cool for them. And they actually don't understand persuasive intent until they're 8 or 9 years old. So before that age, again, they just think those games are a fun thing, that those commercials are just really awesome things that appeal to them and have things that they're interested in. Advertisers know that and they take advantage of that. So young children can't be relied upon to choose what's enough media. I think a lot of parents think that their child will shy away from the iPad or the TV or the Xbox when they've had enough, but they really don't. They don't know when enough is enough, so that's really up to the adults in their lives to help them sort of decide that, I guess. A good example of this is Sesame Street. So we all know and love Sesame Street, and it's so great and been around forever, but they were actually one of the first TV shows to hire child psychologists, like the video was talking about earlier, and they actually engineer their programming so that kids can't look away. And I think that's a really scary thing that they have short little snippets and little games and songs and that's designed to appeal to a child's brain, so they literally can't get away. They crave more all the time. The health impact just is some interesting statistics. So children consume 18% of their daily calories while watching TV during the week, and that goes up to 26% on the weekend. For every hour children watch TV, they consume an extra 167 calories. And there's been lots of studies between ads for junk food and fast food and the rise of obesity in children as well. So. Emotional attachment. This is the scariest part of it for me, I think, is that companies intentionally get children emotionally attached to their products through jingles or just that's the toy that they had to have. Then they become emotionally attached to it, and they take advantage of that. So we have a couple of examples of emotional attachment that we thought of for ourselves. So Shayla's going to first talk about some Lucky Charms.
All right, so Lucky Charms, well, let me kind of give you some background. When I was with my mom, we didn't have cable, really no TV, so I didn't see this commercial. But when I would go to my dad's, and it'd be like 1 or 2 times a weekend, 1 or 2 weekends a month that I would see this commercial.
Lucky Charms! Hearts, stars, and horseshoes, clovers and balloons, hourglasses, rainbows, and tasty red balloons!
Hiya, Lucky. Thanks, Lucky. Gotta go. Uh-oh. Whoa. Hearts, stars, and horseshoes,
Clovers and blue moons, hourglasses, rainbows, and tasty red balloons!
So if you see, they kind of have the repetition in there. Hearts, stars, horseshoes, clovers, and balloons. And I remember that. To this day, I remember that. And now, even as an adult, when I go buy cereal, I buy Lucky Charms, and they make me happy. So that's the emotional attachment that I have to Lucky Charms, and that's only watching the commercials a couple weekends a month.
Okay, so hopefully I'm not dating myself too bad, but Hungry Hippos was an ultimate favorite game of mine. And there was one day that my babysitter would not let me play it. And I was really, really mad, and I begged and begged and begged, and she said no. So what did I do? I ran away from home. I ran away to the empty lot behind my house, and I stayed there until my parents came home to get me. So here's a little clip.
If you want to win the game, you gotta take good aim and get the most marbles with your hippo. Playing Hungry Hippos. Hungry Hippos.
Hungry Hippos is the name of the game, and whoever hippo gets the most marbles wins.
Playing Hungry Hippos. Hungry Hippos.
Okay, so when we were looking through and we were talking about things we had emotional attachments to, I immediately thought of strawberry shortcake, and I'll date myself, Michelle. So this was like over 30 years ago for me, and as soon as I saw this commercial, I could smell strawberry shortcake, and kind of like Shayla, it just made me happy.
Strawberry shortcake, angel cake the same. Comes with a pet with a very cute name.
This is angel cake with souffle, a sweet smelling skunk, strawberry shortcake with custard, a cat with the same smell strawberry has.
Dolls with pets each sold separately.
Lemon meringue with frappe.
Okay, so we've taken some time to share some things we have emotional attachments to and obviously very strong attachments to. What are some that you remember or kind of have that same experience with?
Star Wars. We should talk about Star Wars since you brought it up. So 1978, 77. Anyway, Star Wars was the first time that a movie marketed toys. So that was the genius idea about, well, let's attach toys to a movie, and that's what actually made Star Wars. Their billions is the marketing to everything else, not just the movie.
Spencer, did you
Okay. So I'm an only child, and when I was 8 or 9, every weekend my grandma would pick me up from school and we would go to Toys R Us and I would get a Polly Pocket. And then eventually I had one of those big totes with the lid on it with like 80 or 90 different Polly Pockets with Polly Pocket accessories. And it just made me happy because that's when, you know, I actually got a toy. My mom didn't have a lot of money, so that was kind of a nice thing.
So this one is kind of like the places that you guys were talking about. When I was younger, I grew up in a kind of a small town in Wyoming, 5,000 people, and it was 4 hours away from Denver. And you would always see the Six Flags commercials, and you know how it always had that catchy song to it with the dancing grandpa. And in 5th grade, we finally went to Six Flags, and the song was playing as you like entered in the park, and I was like, "This is the greatest day ever!" Finally, like go there, and to this day, I listen to that song, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm so happy right now. I could go back," and I feel kind of pathetic when I like listen to it, just because it, like you said, it brings joy. For what reason? I have no idea.
Okay, so now we've got you feeling all good about these characters and products, and now we're going to tell you why this isn't great. So they talked about in the earlier video clip that children's brains are still developing. They're not little adults emotionally. Their needs are very, very different. The emotional centers of their brains are still developing, and that means that emotional experiences create important brain structures and leave an imprint. So they're not ready for all of this. Then we kind of just talked about this. They have an attachment to things rather than people. And it's sometimes a very strong attachment to characters or products. This one, we've talked about it a lot at the center and in actually another presentation, but it's just the inability to regulate emotions without an object or entertainment to soothe and distract. Think about iPads. I mean, think about when you're at restaurants or you see people in waiting in line. How often do little kids have something to prevent a meltdown? And the need to regulate yourself is really, really important. And if they're using a device or an object, then they're not developing that self-regulation, which all of us know is really important. So it just creates an appetite for more. So they do a really good job of, like Rihanna showed you, you can have transformers on everything. And it's kind of this idea that happiness equals more things. And then that kind of creates the super consumer because you want it all. Experiences become less important than the stuff. So if you're staying at the Nickelodeon hotel, that becomes the important part, not that you're on vacation with your families. And then this kind of comes to this love equals possession, that caring about something means you have to have it. So you have to have every product with the character on it. So we decided to watch this first. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna watch. Oh, I went to the wrong page. We're good. So the stuff that they choose from is becoming increasingly inappropriate. It sends wrong messages about sexuality, relationships, violence, gender, and we're gonna go into some of those throughout the presentation. But then kind of this really important kind of big idea is that as a vulnerable population, young children cannot give their voice to their emotional needs and responses like adults, and thus cannot compete with marketers or advocate for themselves, which is exactly why we're up here. We understand this and we feel like we can advocate for children, but they can't do it themselves. So there's this idea, a marketing tool of age compression, and it's basically marketing items for older children and adults to younger children. That means increased violence, sexuality, gender stereotypes. So the term tween, which I'm sure everybody has heard of, it was invented by marketers. It's not a real age group. And we talked about this as a staff earlier, that the age group of tweens keeps getting younger and younger and younger. Okay, so we're gonna watch this little clip and then I'll have a couple questions for you. It's actually a movie trailer.
This summer, it's coming out.
I'm gonna show you something beautiful. Everyone screaming for mercy. You want to protect the world, but you don't want it to change. You're all puppets, tangled in strings.
It's the end. The end of the path I started us on.
Nothing lasts forever.
Okay, so after we watch that movie trailer, I just want you to think, what do you think that's gonna be rated, the movie? How old do you think a kid would be to handle sitting through that movie and watching all of that? What age kids are you going to see at this movie? So it just kind of shows that it falls under that category of age compression. There was a lot of violence, sexualization, gender stereotypes, and here's all the products. So you have.
Michelle wants you to point out how creepy the song was.
So did anyone notice or listen to the song that he was singing? What's it from? It's a song from Pinocchio, and it's just really creepy and scary. So you can get Ultron Prime. He's a action figure. You can get a costume. You can get a little tiny Hulk if you're a little tiny kid, and your family can take part and buy these little puppets. And that's about all I can say about that. Yeah. And speaking of catchy jingle.
Daddy finger, where are you? Here I am, how do you do?
Mommy finger, where are you? Here I am, how do you do? Brother finger, where are you? Here I am, how do you do?
So that's marketed to very young children, but a very catchy tune. Yeah, we didn't really know what to think about when we saw that one. So the next slide talks about, these were Halloween Express's top 5 boys costumes for 2014. So you have Captain America, Spider-Man, Ninja Turtles, Rocket Raccoon, and then the Grim Reaper. And all the ones from movies are from PG-13 movies. But if you look at them, like look at those superhero ones, they have big defined muscles, and they don't look like what they did when I was a kid. So they're looking older.
So now that we've covered violence, we're going to talk a little about sexualization, and we're going to start with how food, a very familiar product, I'm sure all of you know what M&Ms are. So this is a commercial from the 80s, and you can see how cute and cuddly the M&Ms look. Maybe.
Done at last. Well, genius, how about some M&M? Hi, kids. Wow.
Where M&M's chocolate candies go, there's bound to be some fun, you know. It's a bright and colorful wonderland. All the world loves M&M's. Pure milk chocolate joy for everyone.
M&M's chocolate candies. The milk chocolate melts in your mouth, not in your hand. See you later.
And then we'll look at a commercial from today. Well, here's the characters. As you can see, they've added 2 sexualized women M&Ms. And here's a very disturbing commercial that we found.
I remember watching this during the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
Mint chocolate M&M's premiums. Premium chocolate infused with the cool intensity of mint. Oh, the chocolate experience you've been waiting for. I'd say that's a wrap. I'll be in my trailer. M&M's premiums in 5 fabulous flavors.
So I just want to know if any of you have any thoughts about the differences between the 2 commercials and what messages that's sending to our children. Don't be shy.
I don't know who was first, but.
Just the second one seemed almost just uncomfortable to watch. Like, I don't think that I would want to view that commercial like around any sort of family situation because it's so obviously uncomfortable and sexual, and like, to be honest, I don't know how something like that would get approved. Like, just the sounds That's all I can say.
I'm gonna go down here and then I'll come back.
As for this one, you can tell that the legs on the women are skinnier, and the way that they're posed is different. And being that they're women, they're just showing that, to me, that this is how you're kind of supposed to look versus a male kind of thing.
Right, totally. We don't want little toddlers walking around looking sexy, I don't think, but.
I think that it's interesting that after she's done doing her, whatever she was doing, like, you look back at the cameramen and like the way that they look at her, and like they're obviously valuing her for like her weird sexual thing, and like that's kind of uncomfortable, because if it's like marketed in this like palatable form of it's just candy and like kids are seeing that, it's kind of too bad that like in preschool and like that developmental age, you know, they're like gender is really important. They're like, you know, this is a boy thing, this is a girl thing, and you think that kind of that goes away a little bit and people understand a little bit more about gender, but I feel like this kind of thing just makes it seem like if this is how it is, you know, like people would just stay in that like 4 or 5-year-old mentality of what gender means. So that's kind of weird.
I was just going to add that you may think like that we purposely looked up the most dramatic and disturbing M&M ad, but actually they introduced the brown female M&M the last Super Bowl or the one before, and that's entirely about being naked, those commercials. So we actually didn't pick the worst. And it absolutely is approved because there's no regulation on how you market this stuff or when or where or to whom.
Right. So next we're going to move on to games and other products that are supposed to be marketed to children. So this was the very first version of Candyland. And if you pay attention to the characters, here they look like little children. They're getting a little bit older on the cover. Now we have Princess Frostina, who's looking a little sexy. And then we have a fairy who has developed boobs and a tiny waist. And we look at Princess Frostina again up here, and she just becomes even more sexualized. And then finally, this is what she's turned into.
Need to say anything more about that?
Do I need to say anything more about that? So we'll just compare like how some characters started out and what they look like now. So this is Strawberry Shortcake. Then and now, Trolls. I'm sure many of you played, well, I played with them when I was a kid. These are Lisa Frank products. I remember having them when I was in school, and everything was kitties and puppies and horses, and now it's like sexualized girls, I guess. This is Rainbow Bright. Cabbage Patch dolls. Holly Hobby. These aren't all the same pony, but we just thought this last one was very, very alarming, with heels and a necklace and earrings and curled fancy hair. These are Bratz dolls. They now even have Bratz babies who carry around milk bottles on chains, and they have lipstick and makeup and midriffs. Yeah, you can see their midriffs. So there's been a lot of backlash, and some particular people who have tried to advocate for women because of all this sexualization. Meghan Trainor, Colby Kelly, and Sarah Bareilles all made songs last year about positive self-image. And another advocate that we love for girls is Dove, and here's one of their commercials that we thought was very, very powerful.
Last year, Bud Light built a town called Whatever USA and invited anyone who enjoys spontaneous awesomeness to become its citizens.
It's like Christmas.
Younger, smaller, lighter, fuller, tighter, thinner, softer. It really works.
So mostly we just found that very exciting that Dove promotes and advocates for women and little girls even. We picked this picture because this was when was this?
1981.
1981. You don't see much gender stereotype or anything like that in this picture. This little girl is playing with Legos, and now, today, these are the Legos that they've created for girls. And we're going to show you 2 different videos of how they're advertising Legos to boys and to girls. And I want you to think about how they're perceiving the characters, what the music sounds like in both videos, and then we'll talk about that after we watch both videos.
New LEGO friends! Welcome to beautiful Heart Lake City. I'm Stephanie. I'm going to a party at the new cafe with my friend Olivia.
That's me. I just finished decorating my house. Time to chill with the girls.
At the beauty shop, Emma is styled and ready to go.
This is gonna be so much fun.
There's the vet with Mia. See you soon. The newly built cafe is the coolest spot in Heart Lake City. Welcome.
I'm Andrea. Cupcakes are ready. I love being together with my friends.
Me too. Welcome to the world of LEGO friends. New LEGO friends. Each set sold separately. Not
In Lego City, the crooks are stealing the rare blue diamond. But the new Elite Police has spotted them. Send in the awesome Elite Police van. Hey! Build the Elite Police van. Race to the museum and capture the crooks. But the master crook is getting away. Chase after him and bring the diamond back to the museum. The new Elite Police collect.
Okay, so would anyone like to comment about the difference in the language used, the music, like any of those commercials?
I noticed in the one for the girls, it's about cooking, cleaning, pampering, all those gender stereotypes. And for the boys, it's violence, being the hero, yeah.
Right, okay, we have another one over there.
As far as the music goes, for the guys, for the boys, there was no music. It was just the background noise of like fire trucks or, you know, that kind. And then the women's, it was like preppy kind of music, which was strange to go from music to none.
Right, I just wanted to make a quick comment about how I see this kind of like affect the children in my classroom directly, my kids are obsessed with Legos, and my boys are always building ships and fire trucks and, you know, just all this stuff that they just advertise in that commercial, and my girls don't. They want to build houses, and if they do try to build a boat, it's not crashing or anything like the boys. So these kind of commercials just tell our kids that this is what you should be like, and this is how you should play with these materials.
Okay, so we want to just take a minute and use Frozen as a case study with you guys. So you're going to get back into your groups and just processing all the stuff we've talked about. The Frozen phenomenon, which is like there's never been anything like it last year. You all experienced it last year, right? In some level. Talk about the Frozen phenomenon and try to think about some of these questions, like how does it demonstrate the power of media, and in what ways does it make visible all these sort of issues that we've talked about, and just any other thoughts that you have. So just take a few minutes and talk about Frozen. Okay, I hate to cut this too short, but we do kind of need to wrap some things up. You know what? I hope you guys continue this conversation with friends and family and other people that you know from today. And that's what we're going to talk about, just to sort of finish things up for you guys. So what are we all going to do about this? Like, what can we do to impact this? It's got to feel a little bit terrifying to be a parent or a grandparent right now, when you feel like your kids are completely surrounded by this influence that doesn't actually have their best interests at heart at all. It's the entire intent is to make money. But we wanted to share a few things with you all about ideas for parents that have been recommended by some really great media advocates, not media advocates, but anti-media advocates. So one of the first things is, it's really interesting, but there's a lot of statistics that show that parents that just pay attention to how much time their kids spend on screen, not that even tell them, not that limit it, but just know how much time their kids spend in front of screens, their kids spend way less time, considerably less time in front of screens, just because their parents know. So that's just good information for you to think about. Recommendations are to not have sets or gaming systems or iPads in bedrooms, in a child's bedroom. If you ever want to know like the reasoning behind this stuff, come find me and I can give you additional information, but this is just a summary. The idea is to eliminate background television for young children for lots of reasons that we can talk about another time. To limit, just as a rule, families could limit all screen media on school days. Identify non-screen in-home activities that their kid loves and do those things. And then avoid using any kind of media as a reward or punishment, because all it does is elevate the importance of that media. In fact, we just heard, was it yesterday, that a pediatrician here in town just recommended to parents to use media as a reward for their child if they did something healthy. Was it they wanted to take vitamins or something? But so pediatricians now, actually, ones that aren't well educated, are encouraging parents to use media as rewards. So spread the word that that's not a good idea. And just don't put any media in a household eating area at all. If you do have a TV there, shut it off, and shut off all your phones and other screens when you have meal times. And then just don't eat while you watch. And then just other things, how many of you guys just have kids in your life, but they're not your children, but you could have some kind of influence on them? These are ideas for you. So try to help kids stretch their play beyond branded products. That's really actually very, very hard, because when you buy a character tied to a movie, then what you're encouraged to do is just replay the plot of the movie. So it's very hard. It's a big issue for children's play, because it means they aren't involved in creative play that's so essential for their development. So try to help them move beyond that. So even if they're in a room full of toys, the one message Toy Story should send is that you can use any random toy to be something else if we help kids see that they can do that, right? But then just don't add to the mix. Find them good toys that aren't linked to media. They still exist. Find foods. Try to look for foods that aren't linked to media. So you don't have to buy SpongeBob Kraft. You could just buy regular macaroni and cheese, for instance. But you can buy other craft. Try to find things without characters on them some of the time. And then start talking to kids, even though they don't really understand persuasive intent until they're about 8, you can for sure start saying things to them like, did you know they just want you to buy that? That's why that's on. And you can have those kinds of conversations with kids at a very young age. And a big one for all of us is our children tend to use media in the same ways that we do. So we probably should all evaluate our own media choices and see what children are seeing us do, because that's what they're going to do. And then encourage media limits for children. American Psychological Association, for 10 years at least, has had recommendations about screen time viewing. It's that there should be really no screen viewing for kids under 2, and that it should be limited to 1 to 2 hours a day if children are over 2. Our recommendation, we think people should care about our recommendation. Our recommendation would be for kids under 5, so after 2 years old and under 5, it should be limited to 1 hour a day. And then what should we be talking to policymakers about? There's a lot of people advocating about what we should be saying. Here's some suggestions. So we should be limiting, there can be limits placed, regulations made about length of times of commercials for children and times when those can be viewed. There's very limited ones. Right now, the only law out there is that if you're, what's a Nickelodeon show that's on right now? I can't even think of one. Whatever cartoon is on, your advertising can't be for the characters to that cartoon. Your ads have to be about something else, like wearable stuffed animals or whatever. That's why it's like that. So if we can have that limit, for sure, policymakers have enacted other laws to protect children. We could do more. So for sure, we could do something to limit where magazines are placed. Sexualized images of women don't have to be placed at the checkout line. We could fight for that. Reduce the amount of things that kids see on billboards and other things on the street. And then try to address what's going on during prime TV viewing times when kids are watching. And then a big one for us that's a real concern is the amount of athletics that children watch with their parents and the ads that are on during athletic events, particularly football. And they're for beer commercials, and there's a lot of really inappropriate sexualized images of women. And not only that, there's other commercials, for instance, the Budweiser puppy and horse commercials Those are all things that appeal uniquely to children, to all of us, but children in particular are susceptible to those, and it's for beer. Like there should be some kind of standard there in place about what children are exposed to during those viewing times. Just a couple of other things. We could do things to make it easier for parents to block things online. One of the recommendations that I think is really interesting, I don't see it ever happening in the US, but I love the idea, would be to prohibit children being brand ambassadors if they're under the age of 16. So don't use children to sell to other children. Prohibit peer-to-peer marketing. We didn't even go into that, but there's an incredible market for peers selling, young children selling to their friends, which is really disturbing. We didn't have time for it today. Prohibit advertising in schools. It's everywhere. We could sure address that. You could address that on a local level. We might not be able to change everything in the US, but you can change things in your local school district if you advocate for it with enough other people. And there should definitely be a standard and some kind of regulation about marketing of sexualized toys, and at this point it's pretty much non-existent. And then there should be, at least in some form, some kind of recognition that toys from R-rated and PG-13 movies that are marketed to children are still from movies that are inappropriate for their age. Put it on a label, find some way to acknowledge that that's the case. All advertising regulations should include kids from 12 and under. There should be codes of ethics that are followed, and we need to do a lot more to educate parents and kids about media literacy topics. Golden Marble Awards, we just want to share with you guys as a power of advocacy sort of event. The Golden Marble Awards were awards that were set up by big, huge advertising companies, and they awarded the companies that produced the best, most persuasive commercials for young children. And the Golden Marble Awards started in 1998, and they no longer exist because people decided to demonstrate against the Golden Marble Awards. So people in New York City would attend outside the event. They hosted their own show about the worst, their own mock awards of the worst commercials for kids. What happened as a result, Scholastic was an enormous part of the Golden Marble Awards. They pulled their involvement in Golden Marble Awards, and now they no longer exist. The thing about this, about children's best interests, we can embarrass people because everyone gets it in their heart that this is wrong. We can embarrass people into behaving better, so let's start doing it. Here's some groups that you guys could get involved with or look up or like on Facebook, and if you do, you won't believe the kinds of work that's being done out there, advocacy work. I recommend the Campaign for Commercial-Free Childhood in particular is amazing. Media Education Foundation is really powerful. Tons of great documentaries and exposés on marketing to children. Every single one of these Common Sense Media is a really valuable tool you can get in app form to help parents inform themselves about the stuff that their kids watch and read and what the content is. Common Sense Media will tell you every single word and every single bit of sexual content and violence and everything that's said in a movie before you take your kid to it. So I strongly recommend everybody get that app. It's easy and it's such a good parent tool. So that's the gist. Before you're allowed to leave, we have to wrap things up. You have to talk to somebody here about what you're gonna do in response to what we've talked about today. It could be really small. It could be that you're just gonna go and like one of those on Facebook. It could be that you're gonna try to have a conversation with your sister who has little kids and point some things out to her. It could be anything. You could take on a particular cause. If you really are really bothered by gender stereotypes in toys, that could be a cause that you could try to do something about. So we just want you guys to share with each other, share with a person. Yeah.
Something that you said that I just wanted to highlight is the fact that you just said, go ahead and like it on Facebook. So that is another way in which media companies use our information as well as our connections to then market to those that we love using the peer-to-peer. That's something that's invisible. I'm on Facebook as well, right. So I'm not a good proponent of that, but I think that just being aware that everything that we like can then be sold to others in different ways, and sometimes we don't know what Facebook is doing with that or other companies, and so just anything media related, find other ways. And another thing is that the American Library Association has a list of reasons why children should be using creative play. So that's a very good resource.
That's great.
As well. So.
Yep. All right, share an idea before you leave here. And then also on your way out, if you guys will look at the table over there, we have a bunch of one like 2-page front and back fact sheets about a lot of the stuff that we talked about today. Everybody take one of those with you. Find somebody to share that with, okay? Thanks a lot for your time. Don't leave till you've talked to somebody.